Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we're going to talk about our alternating 360 with the Mace. The alternating 360 is really a Gama Cast. It's also called a 10-2. Why is it called all these things? I don't know. People like to name things different things. Originally, this was a Gama Cast. The Gama Cast was named for the great Gama, famous wrestler who lived in what was basically Pakistan in the early part of the last century, and he did these every day. The rumor was he did 1,000 of them with an 80-pound club. If you could do that, just think about that. It takes you about 4 minutes to do 100 with a heavy weight. And now, if you were to do 1,000, you would multiply that by 10. That would mean you would do this exercise for 40 minutes nonstop with an 80-pound weight. You would be a true beast, a true beast. You would be beyond normal people in every single way. I like to use the term alternating 360 because it implies very simple things. In kettlebells, we call this a halo, an alternating halo. In heavy club swinging, we would call this a shield cast or alternating shield cast, which we call a Gama Cast. And now we're going to do it with Mace. In Mace, we tend to call it a 360. An alternating 360 is essentially a Gama Cast with a Mace. For this exercise, we are going to do all the things we normally do. We are going to put our elbow as close to our hip as we can. We are not going to let our elbows deviate out. We are going to have good flat wrist alignment. We are not going to have any barbell wrists at any point in this movement. And we are not going to lay the weight on our body. Step one, we are going to have this 90-degree angle, verticalize the forearm, keep the gap between the weight and your body. Do not flare out and rest your hands on your body. First thing you can see when you see somebody doing this is this gap right here. If you see that gap, things are not generally going as well as they could be. Squeeze the elbows together, push them forward. For the alternating 360, you can go either way you want first, but I coach top hand, opposite ear first because that is the easy direction. Opposite ear. Now, the way that this differs from a normal 360 is it goes back the way it came. What you are going to notice is that I am coming back to perfectly vertical in the center of every rep. If you were to turn this into a 10-2, then it would stop here. 10 on a clock or 2 on a clock. So 10, 2, 10, 2, 10, 2. Those are the two major versions of this exercise, coming all the way to the balance point and stopping at the 10 and the 2. I like coming all the way to the balance point because it works no matter what the weight is. If you find your balance point with every weight, then you know you're in control. The 10-2 is kind of like catching for a brief second and then changing directions. People love that version. That's actually one of the old versions that you'll see people do if you watch videos of yogis doing this exercise in India. You will see more of a 10-2. I prefer the center because it allows you to then transition to other types of movement. So if you're going to combine the alternating 360 with other movements, then coming to the vertical center is something that's just a nice add-on. Let's try this with a 30-pound garage fit Mace. And let's try this with a 35-pound Apollo Athletics steel mace. Feet pointed straight ahead. So you'll notice if I come all the way to the vertical, to the balance point, I have to bring my hands lower. If I'm going to do 10, to 2, I don't have to do that pull all the way down to finish that rep. And that is an adaptation which is done for numbers and for various other reasons, but I like to come to that balance point in the middle so that I can transition effectively to other movements. Modern steel mace is based on traditional gata swinging, but as people do in the modern world with the advent of information sharing and everything else, it has become much, much, much more complex than that, and the transitions become very, very useful. I like the lighter to intermediate weight maces for almost everything. If I'm going to be doing Gama Casts with a heavy weight, then you don't do a lot of the other types of transitions. But for the most part, the beauty of steel mace lies in the fact that it's infinitely complex and it connects to a lot of different types of movement, and you can mimic a lot of other types of movement under load with probably the most complex type of catching and rotation that I know of. If there's something else that's more complex for like chin na, the art of seizing and grabbing a flying weight through the air, I don't know what it is, because you can do a lot of crazy stuff with steel clubs that you can't do with clubs, for the sheer fact that clubs are harder to catch at the top because they're big, they're round, and they're covered in rubber, or they're giant and they're steel. It's hard to reverse grip clubs. It's easy to reverse grip modern steel maces. If you're one of the guys who has taken a piece of bamboo or a piece of wood and shoved it in a can and filled it up with concrete, there's a lot of reverse stuff you're not going to be able to do, but you can definitely 100% do your 360s and your alternating 360s with even the craziest handmade stuff. For this exercise, like all other exercises, we want to point our feet straight ahead. You will see people doing this with turnout. I am not one of those people because I want to transition into other movements, step forward, step back, step to the side, squats. And all of those transitions are really easy if your feet are pointed straight ahead. They all have an extra step. If every time you want to transition into a lunge, you have to alter your foot, step forward, step back, alter your feet over and over and over again. I prefer always pointing my feet straight ahead with exercises like this. And instead of letting your knees do weird things, I want to rotate from my hips and my knees instead, and rotate from my spine as much as possible in order to keep the movement consistent. I have a lot of injuries, so I have specific adaptations to make sure I live through them. If you have injuries, you probably want to use those adaptations so you stay alive too. This has been Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica.